So, Last of Us is a game that I hold in a very high regard. And it's a game that I recommend people to play, especially if they enjoy games such as Uncharted or Resident Evil. This is a game that, to me, came out of left field, and it's one of the best games that we've had. And that's to say that's saying a lot, considering how we've had a lot of really good games throughout the years, because video games have been around for a very long time, and there's been stellar games and not so stellar games. Last of Us Part 2, not so much, that I can recommend to everybody, but it's still a game that I enjoy. And I want to talk about the remake rumors that has been going on, and why I feel like people are getting bent out of shape regarding this, and that I don't think a full-on remake is happening. But that's to be said. I don't really mind a remake, but I don't think it's necessary either. And what I think is really happening here is a remaster of a remaster. And you guys might be wondering, is like, wait, what are you talking about? Because we just had a remaster of a remaster with them basically updating the PS4 version to now play at 60 FPS and have no loading times. And you're absolutely right. Yes, they did do a remaster of a remaster, basically updating the PS4 remaster. The PS4 remaster basically it allowed the game to play at a higher resolution from the PS3 version, and with updated visuals. But I mean, they're the same visuals, just kind of polished up a little bit. But what I think is going on here is not a remake. I don't think a remake is happening, and I think a lot of people, like I said, are kind of flipping out about it for no reason. What I believe is happening is that they're trying to make it more in line with Last of Us Part 2, and I'm okay with that. A remake would be more like Resident Evil 2 remake, Resident Evil 3 remake, where those are full-on remakes of old games, where a lot of people, their complaints about a remake happening for this game is because it's not an old game. It's a game from 2013, which makes it 7 years old at this point. And while they're right, a remake shouldn't happen for a game that's 7 years old, or 8 years old, I should say. It's 2021, 8 years old. I like I said, I don't think it's a remake. What I think they're going to be doing is updating the visuals of the game from the ground up. I think that the game itself is going to be unchanged as far as the story goes, as far as the voice acting. Like, all of that is going to be the same, because the voice acting for the game was phenomenal. The motion capture work that went into this game was something that was groundbreaking at the time and completely changed the way that video games happen. I mean, up until this point, the kind of motion capture work that we had was nowhere near what this brought to the table. And the same could be said for Last of Us Part 2. The absolute monster of a game that is, as far as visuals go, and the way that the motion capture works, and all the audio design and the visual design that went into Last of Us Part 2, it brought a lot to the table as far as progression moving forward for video games. And so what I think that they're doing is going to be using that technology, the new updated technology that they had for Last of Us Part 2. They're going to be implementing it into Last of Us Part 1, and that's why I don't think it's going to be a remake. I think it's going to be a full-on remaster of a remaster. So the character models are going to look much more realistic, like they do in Last of Us Part 2. The set pieces are going to look more realistic as well. I feel like they're going to update the controls to make it more like Last of Us Part 2. Because the thing is that Last of Us Part 2 is not really a huge improvement when it comes to the controls, except for the dodging mechanic. The dodging mechanic was a huge improvement over the first one, but many people don't realize that the dodging mechanic was something that they actually wanted to implement into the first game, but that was something that they had to cut due to constraints on the development of the game. They were limited on time, and to get the dodging mechanic to work just right, it wasn't something that they had enough time to develop, and so that's why it wasn't existent in the first game. Whereas in the second game we had the dodging mechanic. So I feel like that's something that they're going to be putting into the first one, is adding that dodging mechanic. I feel like they're going to, like I said, update all the visuals for it. Another thing too is they might update the audio design when it comes to like the clickers and the gunshots and stuff like that. Because Last of Us Part 2, the way that the audio design was in that game, the clickers and like just all the creatures in general, like all the infected in general, they all sounded scarier. Like it was just something about it that like it just made it more terrifying in part 2 as opposed to part 1. And then the gun design or the audio for the gun design in part 1 was definitely not up to part 2. The part 2 was so much better. But again, I mean, technology advances, and so because technology advances, then you know it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, they can take that and implement it here, and it's not so much how can I put it, it's not so much developmental work to be able to do something like that, because the first game as it is a near perfect game. It's so damn close to being a perfect game. The story is phenomenal. The characters are very well acted. Like everything about this game is held in such high regards. That's why people don't want to remake. It's not necessary to remake this game, and that's why I feel like it's not a remake. It's a remaster of a remaster. And take that as you will. I mean, time will tell, right? I mean, that's just one of those things that we have to kind of wait until it happens. But I'm so tired of seeing people get bent out of shape, because I really don't think it's a remake, guys. And let me know your thoughts and your opinions down below in the comment section. Do you think it's a remake? Do you think it's a remaster of a remaster, like I'm saying? If it is a remake, does it bother you? I want to know all these things. Let me know. And if you want more Last of Us 2 content, well, or just Last of Us content, I shouldn't mean, over here, I will go ahead and put a link or an end screen teaser for you guys. You can watch my Last of Us video on a father's perspective on Last of Us. And I hope to see you guys again real soon, because I'm waiting for a PS5 update for Last of Us Part 2, so that way I can play it again. Have another reason to play it. Why not? Until then, I'll see you guys.